afternoon. My name is Moturayo Ayegbayo. Nigerians bear their minds on the 62nd anniversary of the African nation. Top Rwanda genocide suspect and financier Shams trial. Prominent Palestinian rights lawyer goes on hunger strike in Israeli prison. 5 died in another shooting incident in the United States. As Nigeria backs in the euphoria of its 62nd independence anniversary, Nigerians have clamored for unity of purpose among the political class, as well as provide adequate security for the citizens' lives at border posts to achieve a better Nigeria. Callers on headlines and OSBC radio, news and current affairs program in Osogbo, southwest Nigeria, stressed the need for Nigerians to be law-abiding citizens, regardless of their status and positions in the society. Alhaji Gbadebo, Mufutawa Adeleke, Bayo Fagbule, Odeyale Michael, and Mr. Delani all called for the review of the Nigerian Constitution for required results. While the callers clamored for a standard revenue formula in the country, they also demanded the resuscitation of all industries that are already in comatose to provide jobs for the teeming job seekers as well as boost the country's economy. They described Nigeria as a corrupt-ridden society and implored citizens to use their vote to elect credible leaders so that the nation can be rid of corrupt leaders. One of the last fugitives charged for Rwanda's genocide to face justice, Felicien Kabuga, has refused to appear in court at the start of his trial. Prosecutor Rashidi S. Rashid told the UN tribunal that 28 years after the event, that Felicien Kabuga is to account for his substantial and intentional role in that genocide. A trial, a frail 87-year-old Rwandan accused of encouraging and bankrolling the country's 1994 genocide, was on trial at a United Nations tribunal near 3 decades after the 100-day massacre left 800,000 dead. Felicien Kabuga is one of the last fugitives charged over the genocide to face justice, and the start of his trial marks a key day of reckoning for Rwandans who survived the killings or whose families were murdered. Naftali Ashikai, the executive secretary of a genocide survivors group known as Ibuka, said it is never too late for justice to be delivered. Iranian's ambassador and permanent representative to the United Nations, Amira Sahid Ravani, has called on the UN Security Council to throw its influence behind the constructive interactions between the Syrian government and the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. During a Security Council meeting on chemical weapons in Syria, Ravani pointed to Syria's effort to implement its obligations under the Chemical Weapons Convention, stressing that adoption of a politicized approach and double standards vis-à-vis the Syrian chemical file will only divulge technical-oriented discussions and can undermine the credibility and authority of the UN Security Council. The senior Iranian diplomat went on to highlight that the Islamic Republic, as the primary victim of the most systematic use of chemical weapons in modern history, has always condemned in the strongest terms the use of chemical weapons by any party, anywhere, and under any circumstances. The top Iranian diplomat expressed hope that the upcoming meeting between Syrian Foreign Minister Faisal Mekdad and Arias would help resolve the lingering issues between the two sides. Germany's annual inflation rate has hit a 70-year high amid warnings that energy shortages could do further damage. According to official statistics, consumer prices in Germany rose by 10.9% in the year to September. Preliminary data released by Government Statistics Office, the status described the figure as the highest inflation reading since December 1951. The status said energy prices have markedly increased and have had a considerable impact on the high rate of inflation. Energy prices rose from 43.9% in September year-on-year. Report says food prices have also increased above average, posting an 18.7% on-year increase. The studies identified other factors pushing inflation higher as supply chain problems and significant price increases as the economic recovery got underway. Experts specifically linked the increase in German commodity prices to the expiry of temporary government measures devised to protect households and businesses from the impact of higher energy prices. Meanwhile, energy prices soared due to Russia's decision to cut gas supplies to Europe after the latter imposed sanctions on Moscow over its special military operation in Ukraine. This is the World at Noon, coming to you from Osun State Broadcasting Corporation, Voice of the West, Nigeria. Now, amid news message. Patriotism is defending your nation at all times. Be a patriotic Nigerian. The military forces of the United States have smuggled a new consignment of stolen Syrian oil into northern Iraqi regions. This is as Washington continues plundering the natural resources of the Arab country through illegal border crossings. Quoting local sources in Yoruba countryside, the American occupation forces stole additional quantities of oil by 14 tankers under the protection of military armored vehicles to the legal Al-Walid crossing with Iraqi territory. It also added that another 85 tankers have been smuggled by the American forces into northern Iraq through the illegal crossing of Mohammadiyah a day earlier. Reports has it that U.S. forces steal Syrian oil on a regular basis despite international condemnation, adding that 88 tankers laden with oil were transferred to Iraqi regions through illegal border crossings. The Syrian Oil Ministry announced in late August that the U.S. and its proxy militant groups pillaged over 80% of Syria's daily crude production in the first half of 2022. The ministry said in a statement that the amount of oil production during the first half of 2022 amounted to 14.5 million barrels, with an average daily production of 80.3 thousand barrels, of which 4.2 thousand are delivered daily to refineries. A prominent French-Palestinian human rights lawyer, Salah Hamouri, has joined a mass hunger strike in protest at his detention without charge by Israel for more than half a year. The 37-year-old rights lawyer was arrested on 7th March at his home in the Kufar Kwab neighborhood in occupied East Al-Quds, where Israeli forces entered his bedroom and grabbed him from his bed while still sleeping at dawn. He has since been held in prison under the so-called Israeli policy of administrative detention. Hamouri has been on strike against the controversial measure since Sunday, along with 29 other administrative detainees. According to sources, Israel extended Hamouri's detention the first time in June over alleged links to the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. On the 5th of September, his detention was extended for another 3 months. It was, however, gathered that Hamouri denied any links to PFLP. According to reports, hundreds of Palestinian prisoners are currently being held under the administrative detention policy. Through administrative detention, Israel imprisons Palestinians without trial or charge. The Israeli regime keeps their detainees without charge for up to 6 months, a period which can be extended indefinitely. A researcher with the Palestinian Prisoners' Rights NGO, the rights lawyer has spent a total of 8 years in Israeli prisons over different periods for his political activism and has been moved into solitary confinement in a 2 by 2 square meter cell with no windows and a 10-centimeter mattress. The Hamas resistance movement has described Israel's crimes against Palestinian children as a sadist practice. The announcement came following the brutal killing of a Palestinian child at the hands of the Israeli regime's forces. Reports has it that 7-year-old Ryan Suleiman died in the town of Tahu, near the city of Bethlehem, in the southern part of the Israeli-occupied West Bank. According to reports, Ryan lost his life as he and his fellow school children were being viciously chased by Israeli troops on their way home from school. The West Bank-based Palestinian Authorities Health Ministry said the minor died after falling from a high place during the chase. Reflecting on the incident, Hamas asserted that the Israeli military's crimes against Palestinian children, people, land, and sanctities will not grant Israel security, citing medical staff at the Beit Jala government hospital, where Ryan was pronounced dead. The official Palestinian Welfare News Agency said the child's heart had also stopped beating as was running away from the troops. The Palestinian boy's father, Yasser, confirmed that the Israeli troops had chased his son to their house, adding that Ryan's heart stopped beating because he was apparently so scared. Another shooting incident in the United States has left 5 people dead in central Texas. A mother and 2 children and 2 neighbors were dead after the shooting in the small town southwest of Waco. According to the police, the suspected shooter was the mother's partner, who was later arrested after a separate shooting with police. Authorities have not publicly identified the victims or suspects pending investigation. State Representative Charles Anderson described the bloodshed as a domestic violence incident. Meanwhile, gun violence has reached epidemic proportions in the United States. And here again are the highlights of the world at noon. As Nigeria basks in the euphoria of its 62nd independence anniversary, Nigerians have clamored for unity of purpose among political class, as well as adequate security for their lives and border posts to achieve a better Nigeria. One of the last fugitives charged for Rwanda's genocide to face justice, Felicien Kabuga, has refused to appear in court at the start of his trial. A prominent French Palestinian human rights lawyer has joined a mass hunger strike in protest at his detention without charge by Israel for more than half a year. 5 people, including a mother and 2 children and 2 neighbors, have been confirmed dead after a shooting in the American small town southwest of Waco in central Texas. And that was the word at noon, edited by Olushayo Babatunde and delivered by Moturayo Ayegbayo. News Talk today by Adeboye Popola calls the attention of Nigerians to alleged approval of license for assorted firearms. Katsina state security guards by the federal government, saying the allegation should be investigated by the National Assembly.
The recent media report, which quoted Governor Akeredolu of Ondo State as questioning approval of license for the use of firearms to Katsina local security guard by the federal government, calls for attention of all Nigerians. The statement credited to Governor Akeredolu specifically accused the federal government of double standards and bias handling the security of the country, as it had earlier denied the local security guards in other states of the federation such an approval of license on the grounds that security issues are the exclusive of federal government. The circumstances that necessitated the establishment of state security guards in the country are ever shining in memories of Nigerians. The initiative is predicated on the soaring security breaches as a result of aggression by dreaded the Boko Haram in the core north, rampaging gunmen in the east, and incessant pastoral Fulani attacks across the Middle Belt and other geographical zones of the country. The essence of government was undermined and protection of lives and property by the federal government became a lip service. The security agencies at the center were failing by the day to redeem the situation. The perplexing insecurity ignited the ingenuity of the state governors, constitute local guards for the protection of forests, suburbs, and villages that are often vulnerable to marauders' attacks. For instance, the governors of the southwestern states formed a network security outfit christened Amotekun. The state assembly in each of the states in the geopolitical zone passed law which backed up the establishment of the security security guard. But the presidency seems to be indifferent to the response of the state's governors to the security challenges facing the country. This has been expressed by refusing the guard the license to fire arms. The pertinent question is, does federal government approve the license for Katsina security guard to use firearms? News Talk posits that the president would have confirmed the suspicion of ethnic chauvinism in the management of the country's security if the allegation by Governor Akeredolu is found to be true. The president would also be guilty of compromising the sacred integrity of his office to favor a section of the country while exposing others to danger. The motive of the president, who had through his agency refused the local guards in the Middle Belt and Southwest license to firearms to check the aggression of others who are armed with AK-47, should be probed by the parliament if truly Nigeria is fully democratized. News Talk is of the view that the National Assembly should investigate the alleged case of approval license for the use of assorted weapons issued to Katsina State security outfit. The failure of the National Assembly to bring the issue under scrutiny would amount to dereliction of statutory duties, which could result in unpredictable consequences. This is due to the fact that the oath of allegiance sworn by the president demands loyalty to faithful services to the whole country.
That's News Talk by Adeboye Popola of our editorial desk, called for investigation into the alleged issuance of approval for license for assorted weapons by the federal government to Katsina State security outfit, noting that it would amount to a breach of oath of allegiance by the president, who had earlier denied such a license to other states of the federation. The piece was read by Temi Tokbe Olaiwola. Thanks for listening. Good afternoon.